Last night was supposed to be a victory lap for Melania Trump, a glossy headline moment, a carefully staged comeback narrative designed to make America believe she's untouchable, above criticism, and somehow misunderstood. But instead, it turned into a full-blown political firestorm because in the span of just one day, multiple controversies collided at the exact same time, and the result is a story that is now exploding across social media, lighting up legal circles, rattling campaign insiders, and raising one question that millions of Americans are now asking out loud. What exactly is Melania Trump hiding? And why does her past keep resurfacing right when her public image operation is trying to go into overdrive? Listen carefully, because the timeline matters here. And the timing is what makes this story so explosive, because while her team has been pushing a film project meant to reshape her reputation, another storm has been gathering in the background, one involving names, documents, old connections, and a dark cloud that has hovered over American politics for years. And now, Melania's name is being pulled into that cloud in a way that her inner circle clearly did not want to happen. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, we're going to stay disciplined here. Stick to what's being reported and what's being discussed in official documents and public records, and let the audience decide what to think. Because the bigger issue is not just gossip, it's what it suggests about influence, access, image manipulation, and the political machine that surrounds the Trump brand. And here's the twist. The story doesn't just involve the past, it also involves what's happening right now in real time, and why certain political and religious networks are suddenly being accused of helping pump up the appearance of success through coordinated efforts that resemble marketing warfare, not organic public support. So let's break it down from the beginning. What happened is this. Melania Trump's latest high-profile media push, promoted by allies as a cultural breakout, is now being criticized as a financial disaster dressed up like a triumph, and at the same moment, renewed attention to documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein has triggered fresh scrutiny over names and relationships that many people thought were already buried. And this is where the story changes completely, because when two narratives collide, Hollywood-style reputation building and the reemergence of highly toxic associations, it doesn't just create bad headlines, it creates political vulnerability. And that vulnerability is what opponents, journalists, and investigators immediately go after. Now, the film angle first, because this part is being used as a shield. Melania allies have been floating the idea that the project was a huge box office success, implying it proves she still has major public appeal. But critics argue the numbers don't tell that story at all. In fact, they claim that when you look at the budget versus returns, it looks like the type of flop that would normally disappear quietly, except this one didn't. And why didn't it disappear quietly? Because powerful networks reportedly wanted it to look like a sensation. And here comes cliffhanger number one. Why would political linked groups allegedly push bulk ticket purchases for a film unless the goal wasn't profit, but optics? That's the part that raised eyebrows. Emails and promotions reportedly encouraged group buys, private screenings, and organized turnout, with some messaging aimed at faith-based communities. Now, whether you view that as harmless enthusiasm or manipulation depends on your perspective, but the accusation is clear. The point was to inflate ticket sales and create proof of popularity. And if that's true, it matters politically because perception is currency in elections. The story being pushed is Melania is beloved, the base is energized, the cultural tide is shifting. But behind that storyline is the more uncomfortable question. Is this popularity real or manufactured? Because if it's manufactured, then that suggests a broader strategy: use spectacle, use numbers, use propaganda-style framing to keep supporters convinced momentum is building. And that matters because 2026 politics, midterms, messaging wars, all of it is built on psychological momentum. Now here's the second layer, and it's the one that makes this story radioactive. As Melania's media campaign ramps up, her name is being discussed in connection with newly resurfaced Epstein-related material, and the Trump camp is furious. Supporters are calling it a smear, critics are calling it overdue scrutiny. But the public? The public is asking a simple question: if there's nothing there, Why is there so much panic? Because the reaction is what's drawing attention. You see, when someone tries to silence critics with threats, legal intimidation, and public outrage, it can backfire because it signals fear, not strength. And according to commentary surrounding this situation, attempts were made to threaten legal action against prominent voices discussing these connections. But then came another surprise. Lawsuits can cut both ways. When you threaten to sue, the door swings open for countersuits, for discovery, for subpoenas, for sworn testimony. And that's where things get dangerous. Because the moment a court gets involved, things stop being public relations and start becoming evidence. And this is where you have to pay attention, because the reporting suggests that at least one person targeted by threats has pushed back legally. That changes everything. Now, cliffhanger number 2. Could Melania's effort to intimidate critics actually trigger the very legal scrutiny she's trying to avoid? Because if courts start looking at communications, timelines, and statements, then her team's entire strategy collapses. And that's why the legal angle here matters. Not because it's sensational, but because legal pressure is the one thing PR can't spin forever. Now let's talk about the documents being discussed. Certain files have been described online as containing references to Melania, including communications and notes connecting individuals in modeling circles and elite social networks during the period when Trump's orbit overlapped with people later tied to Epstein. Again, we're not here making claims of guilt, but we are telling you why this is blowing up. The Epstein name carries unique political toxicity. Any association, direct or indirect, becomes a national controversy because it's tied to trafficking allegations, elite corruption fears, and the public's belief that powerful people get away with crimes the rest of America would be punished for. So when Melania's name is mentioned in any of these contexts, even in passing, it becomes a massive story. And opponents immediately weaponize it. Now, what makes this even more intense is that some statements circulating suggest that introductions between Trump and Melania may have occurred through networks and figures that overlapped with these circles. Whether or not those statements are accurate is being debated, but the reason it matters is because the origin story of the Trump relationship is part of their brand mythology. The fairy tale framing is not just personal, it's political. It's used to humanize the brand. So if the origin story is challenged, the brand takes a hit. And if the brand takes a hit, the campaign takes a hit. That's why this matters. It's not just about social scandal, it's about political architecture. Now, in the middle of all this, public reaction has been fierce, and it's splitting hard along partisan lines. Trump supporters are saying this is a coordinated attack, a smear campaign, the deep state, the media, the same old playbook. Critics are saying no, this is accountability, transparency, and overdue exposure. But regular Americans, a lot of them are just exhausted, watching elites fight while their daily lives get harder. And that's where a third cliffhanger emerges. Could this controversy actually shape voter motivation, not by creating new Trump supporters or new Trump haters, but by intensifying apathy and distrust in the entire system? Because that's how democracies weaken, not through one scandal, but through constant scandal until people stop believing anyone is clean. And that's the danger zone. Now, the political angle is heating up fast. Analysts are already speculating. If these controversies continue, will Melania become a liability on the campaign trail? Will strategists quietly reduce her visibility? Or will they double down and turn her into a martyr figure, claiming she's being targeted because she represents traditional values or the silent majority? That's a play we've seen before. Take criticism, reframe it as persecution, then use it to energize the base. But here's the risk. Persecution narratives only work when the public believes the target is innocent. If the public starts believing there are unanswered questions, that narrative collapses, and then the legal threat strategy becomes a trap. Now, what happens next might shock you, because the next phase of this story isn't going to be fought in theaters or talk shows. It's going to be fought in courtrooms, investigative headlines, and political war rooms. And the rumor circulating is that more material could become public. If that's true, then we are not at the peak of this story. We're at the beginning. And that's why the Trump camp is acting so aggressively. Because in politics, the first reaction often tells you how serious the threat is. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think this is real accountability, or do you think it's political targeting? Do you believe bulk buying tickets to inflate a film's success is harmless promotion or manipulation? And when controversial names appear in old files, should the public demand clarity or move on? Comment your opinion below, because we want to hear where you stand, and we read your comments every day. Now, as we close, here's the bottom line. Melania Trump is facing a dual-front crisis. One side is the appearance of manufactured popularity. The other side is the resurfacing of toxic associations that no political figure wants attached to their name. And the collision of these two narratives creates maximum damage because it hits both credibility and character at the same time. And the big takeaway for Americans is this. In 2026 politics, nothing stays buried. Optics are everything. And every attempt to control the story can end up strengthening the story you're trying to suppress. This is James News, and we're staying on top of this story because more developments could drop at any moment. If you want the next update, the second it breaks, hit like, smash, subscribe, share this video, and turn on notifications right now because the next chapter of this story could change everything.